Propaganda video threatening an attack on Washington, D.C. The group says that the U.S. and other countries that launched airstrikes on Syria will become the next targets. A militant in that video says that they will strike America in its center, meaning Washington. Capitol Police stepped up security on Capitol Hill and sent an email to lawmakers and their aides warning them to use tunnels connecting the Capitol to the House and Senate office buildings. The email insisted that there wasn't a specific threat to the Capitol. However, it stated that it will always be an appealing target. Now, ISIS is claiming responsibility for that attack in Paris that took place Friday and promises to carry out more attacks in Europe and elsewhere. Well, President Barack Obama spoke today at the G20 summit in Turkey and said that the U.S. goal is to destroy this barbaric organization, referring to the terrorists responsible for the Paris attack that killed 129 people. Joining me now is former Reagan administration Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Paul Craig Roberts. Paul, thanks for joining us today. The Pentagon stated that it plans to share military information and intelligence with France in the wake of these attacks. Why wasn't the security measure already in place before?
Look, there's so much we don't know. What I find so funny is it was the Russian government that wanted to attack ISIL, the Islamic State, and the Americans wouldn't go along with it. So now suddenly we want to. What is ISIL? We don't really know, do we? Apparently, this is the group that the CIA used to overthrow Gaddafi in Libya. And then it was sent to Syria to overthrow Assad. So how is it wouldn't be infiltrated by the CIA, by the British intelligence, by Mossad, by French intelligence? I asked another question. Where did ISIL come from? It's a new group. It's portrayed as a barbaric, medieval, knife-wielding fanatics. So how did ISIL so quickly acquire such extensive global capability as to blow a Russian airliner out of Egyptian skies, conduct bombings in Lebanon, bombings in Turkey, outwit French intelligence, conduct successful multi-pronged attack in Paris? Where did this capability come from? I mean, you're talking about an organization that's extraordinary. It's a James Bond level type operation. Something is going on here that that we're not being told.
Well, I'll certainly agree with you. I'm sorry for cutting you off there. I certainly agree that they have a very broad reach across pretty much, as it appears, every continent in the world so far, but they are not operating with such high tactical gear or apart from perhaps maybe some RPGs or maybe some tanks. So they are operating with some rather rudimentary, if you want to say, perhaps old school methods of terrorism. But going back to France here, President Francois Hollande has requested meetings with President Obama and Vladimir Putin together to discuss combined efforts for the fight against the Islamic State going forward. What are your thoughts on this union? Will the U.S. and Russia be able to work together to get through this? And the U.S. has opposing views on Russia's involvement in Syria already.
You see, the United States will use this under the cover of fighting ISIL to overthrow Assad. This is Washington's way of ending the Russian involvement in Syria, which is protecting Assad. So the Russian presence in Syria is very effective, but it's very small. And so what happens when there's a NATO invasion of Syria? The Russians, what would they do? They'd be crowded out. And so this is Washington's way of using an attack in Paris, which most likely was a false flag attack. It doesn't serve ISIL's purpose. It only serves the purpose of the Western political establishment. That's who's served by the attack. So it will now be used by Washington to block the Russian goal of protecting the state of Syria from being overthrown by Washington. That's what will happen. Why is the United States going to work with Russia when the United States has declared Russia to be an existential threat, the greatest threat since Hitler? Russia's invaded Ukraine. Russia's going to invade the Baltics, Poland. Putin is the new Hitler. When you talk about a country like this, you're not going to be cooperating with them.
That's certainly not laying the groundwork for a cooperative friendship, is it? Thank you so much. We have to leave that right there, Paul. Former Reagan administration Assistant Secretary of the Treasury, Paul Craig Roberts, thank you for your expertise, sir.